Congratulations on the demand. Where is it coming from? Is it mostly domestic or global?
It's mostly domestic, but with some globals. There have been overseas interests, not in an organized form, but I think it's a reflection of growing confidence in the Jamaican economy by domestic investors for the most part, and also driven by the fact that interest rates generally are going down and there's a higher level of interest in putting resources into Jamaica, plus the opportunities outside as far as the interest rates in the US and elsewhere are concerned really don't provide the same rates of return as could be had.
Jamaica has a huge diaspora around the world. Going forward, do you see that as a source of opportunity, and what are you going to do to get more people interested in the exchange?
Yes, I think that the Jamaican diaspora is going to be critical in some areas. Tourism in particular, the villa market, but also in our wider economic activities. There have been some interest in medical tourism, for example, and just general investment activity. A critical resource for us.
I want to ask you about the health of the economy overall. You look at the debt to GDP ratio, 133% last year, still rather sizable. Are you convinced it's turning around, that we're seeing a turnaround there?
Yes, I'm convinced it's turning around. What you're seeing is the debt numbers. For example, we are down to about, this March will be about 124% debt to GDP. Still much too high, but we have embarked upon an IMF supported reform program. We have met every single quarterly review. We are seeing balance of payments at historic lows, the current account deficit. Our reserve accumulation is above target, and we've built in substantial buffers. Inflation is at a 50-year low, approximately. Employment is being generated, growth is being generated. We'd all like to see faster rates of growth, but yes, it's a good story.
When you look at your neighbors in the Caribbean that have faster growth, higher growth, I'm thinking of the Dominican Republic and Suriname, are there things that you could learn from them or emulate from them, or is Jamaica singular in a way?
Well, I think we can all learn from each other, but the fact is that we started out, each of us, from different starting points, different economic bases. Suriname has been a commodity-driven economy to a degree. Their debt-to-GDP ratios are quite different from ours. The Dominican Republic, likewise, has had a very different kind of political system and political arrangements, very different population densities and opportunities. But I think what we all have learned is that it's very important, if you are going to participate in the global economy, especially as a small state or a small island state in our case, that you have to have sound public accounts, low debt levels relatively, and ensure that you're not running up major deficits on your budget. So that's what we've tried to do.
You're opening up your bond market again. It was frozen as part of a restructuring in 2013. How do you see the demand for that?
Well, I think it's very good. We are going back into the domestic bond markets really in order to try and excite interest again. There is an expression of interest. We'll be paying out about tomorrow, in fact, about 550 approximately million US dollars in what had been restructured bond markets, bond arrangements. And so it's a good thing. We're going to list some of this on our stock exchange, hoping to generate a secondary market in domestic paper, which will facilitate not only further issues of debt, but at the same time, I think also help stimulate and give some transparency to an important market for commercial paper that's developing as well.
I want to talk about a country which has had the world's best performing stock market in 2018. We're talking about Jamaica, of course. And we're joined now by the island's Finance Minister, Nigel Clarke. I'm very pleased to say is here with us in New York, visiting the United Nations. Wonderful to have you with us. What an end to 2018, what a beginning to 2019. Fitch upgrading your debt rating, seeing that you're managing to square your public finances, cutting the debt load, seeing renaissance in terms of mining. What's the sweet spot right now? What's your secret sauce?
Jamaica has had tremendous performance over the last several years with restoration of macroeconomic stability and a return to growth. We've had 16 consecutive quarters of economic growth, and we have been engaging in a series of structural reforms, fiscal, monetary, and other reforms to restore the economy's health. And the results have been gaining attention around the world.
And the stock market is responding as well. The central bank is supporting education of what's going on economically, tackling debt specifically. You mentioned reforms. What was interesting was there was a series of videos that was released on Twitter addressing inflation and monetary policy. Talk to us about how that came about.
Well, Jamaica has for a very long time had a monetary regime that focused on the exchange rate as a tool of monetary policy. We have been moving away from that gradually, from a managed float to a market-determined exchange rate, with an inflation target being the anchor of monetary policy. Late last year, in a speech I gave, I sent out a very light-hearted critique to the central bank, saying that they're doing all of this but not communicating to the Jamaican people, who ultimately they are accountable to. We have legislation in Parliament to make the central bank independent. And did they respond to my critique? Responded by originating a series of videos designed to bring the Jamaican people into the conversation, into this big change that we're making, this policy change. We have legislation to make the central bank independent. So monetary policy, the implementation of it will be independent of the executive, and moving towards an inflation targeting regime as a cornerstone of monetary policy. And it was very important to communicate to the Jamaican people in the best way possible. And the fact is that in Jamaica, whether you're communicating about a glass of juice or beer, or you're communicating complex monetary policy, music helps music helps the communication effort. And they wouldn't have expected the video to have had received as much attention as it did, but very happy that the message is getting across to the Jamaican people.
Did it go viral? Did it go viral, the videos?
The video, yes, yes, the video went viral, absolutely. Measured by the number of times it was shared and the number of times it was viewed, it went viral and it was seen all over the world. I believe the central bank got comments from monetary policymakers in other countries.
There it is.
Recommending.
Well, we can't listen in, but we can certainly watch it.
There we go. There's the music.
Exactly. Just showing how reggae can be a form of communication. I'm interested in the communication of how you talk about growth going forward. Because at the moment we're seeing what I saw Fitch saying, like, you're going to get about 2% growth going for the next couple of years. But the Prime Minister's focus is for 4%. How is that to be achieved? Why is it not yet achieved?
Yeah. So Jamaica, is emerging from a period of high debt and low growth over a long period of time. Our growth over 40 years was about 0.9%. Over the last 10 years was about 0.2%. Over the last 5 years, about 0.5%. We are now seeing growth at a level of 2%, and we've had 16 consecutive quarters of economic growth, the longest such stretch of quarterly growth since we started measuring growth quarterly in 1997. We, as you have quoted the Prime Minister, we want to elevate levels of growth, and so we are investing in infrastructure to allow us to improve the productivity of business. We are investing in training to improve the productivity of labor, and we are reforming our tax system, bringing forth greater economic efficiency by getting rid of distortionary taxes that distort the allocation of capital in the economy.
Phillips. Good evening, Dr. Phillips.
Good evening. How are you?
I'm good. And you?
Fine, thank you.
Good. Tell me, your reaction to the news this morning that Dr. Phillips is, Dr. Clarke is on his way to the IMF.
No, I think congratulations are due to him. It is an important and well-deserved accolade for him to be appointed as one of the deputy managing directors, and an indication not just of his own accomplishments personally, but I think it puts the Caribbean and Jamaica and Latin America in a position to have a voice in the senior levels of the staff of the International Monetary Fund. While he is not likely to be directly overseeing Jamaica or Jamaica's programs, nevertheless, it is good to have somebody from the developing world able to empathize with, understand, and speak from experience about the situation in the emerging markets. So, yes, all told, that is good. Speaking personally, as I said to him myself earlier, I would hope that we'll be able to benefit in Jamaica from a voice, a considered voice, to reflect on the challenges of growth, which is something that has eluded us in the country, sustainable economic growth, and where I think the tenor of the debate globally is moving away from notions of trickle down and to in the direction of clear-cut industrial policies and growth plans that would enable different countries in different situations to cross the line into and enter the ranks of developed countries. And it's certainly it's a debate that is needed here in Jamaica and the Caribbean, and I think Nigel Clarke's experience would make him an important contributor to such a debate. But I'm hopeful that, despite the fact that he'll be, based elsewhere, that when such a debate gets underway, as I hope it will, and in Jamaica, and include not just, in fact, not even primarily the representatives of political parties, but other elements, other stakeholders in the country as well, that we'll be able to get some benefit from his experience and from his exposure to thinking in the wider world.